what was your journey like to become better from the breakup?
So we both graduate, we both look for jobs, we both find a way to make ends meet while staying together. Yeah, we're in this together. I mean, in a tough world, we're just starting out. So losing that felt crazy.
I think men go through worse. Okay, I'm not comparing heartbreaks, but for women, it's so easy to express it out with their girls, maybe have some wine and just cry it out maybe 3 weekends in a row. The fourth weekend, she'll probably have another guy. And you as a man, you're still confused. You're like, shit, where do I start?
The funny thing about breakups is your life might be coming to an end, but the world is continuing.
My whole world has gone upside down and I don't know what to do. I started having insomnia and, I'm like, why me? What did I do wrong? And then I kept blaming myself. I'm like, because you didn't make enough effort or you didn't communicate or whatever, yeah? It's because of you. Suppress, and not talk about it.
You usually hear stories of, a man kills his father over a plate of ugali. So that's what's written on the headlines. Mm-hmm. Like, a man kills father over a plate of ugali. But in my head, I'm thinking, the ugali wasn't the problem.
There's probably deeper resentment. You're listening to the Men's Forum,
your guide to being a better man.
Here we talk about everything to do with dealing with the nuances of life as a man.
This is your safe space to finding solutions to any problem you could be facing as a man.
We're your hosts Rajveer and Shalin, and we're sitting down with guests who share their personal experiences and insights, adding depth and new perspectives to our discussions.
In today's episode, we're joined by Pascal and Ron from the podcast On a Friday. One not just podcasters, but also pioneers behind the innovative event, Games for Mental Health. This unique event uses games as a tool to help participants open up and address their struggles, fostering a supportive community atmosphere. Today, we dive into a topic that affects many, but it's rarely discussed openly: breakups. We'll explore how men cope differently with breakups and why it's crucial for men to talk about their feelings during these tough times. We discuss various healthy strategies to help you grow through a breakup and how such a challenging experience can either make or break a man. Whether you're going through a breakup yourself, know someone who is, and just want to understand more about emotional resilience, this episode is packed with amazing info advice. Let's get into it. Ron and Pascal, welcome to the Men's Forum.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this it's finally out of the group chat, isn't it?
Yes.
And it shows you when you have just men in a group chat, things work faster.
Tell us more about you. You have the podcast, and you also have another page that you aim at games with...
Games for mental health. So that's something we're all very passionate about, and we were, I'd say, lucky to get friends who are also passionate about it. So we just started as a group of friends, sharing, and 3 of them went through psychology school.
Yeah. They took psychology.
That one. Like, as a course.
Yes.
So when you have psychology friends, they're not psychology friends.
Psychologists.
Psychologist friends.
I'm glad you didn't say psychiatrist.
They told me the difference between that. So when you have psychologist friends, they really tend to point out a lot of things, and they just help us grow, help us nurture us, remind us when to do good. They're just like they used to ask us really hard questions like, what do you do for self-love? What do you do for self-care? And I'm there, okay, we do that. We didn't know we had to do that. So growing as a friend thing, it went on to decide, let's do this more and more. We want to bring in more of our friends. You have your friends, let's bring them together. Let's have a session. Let's play games and have fun because we're friends. That's what we wanted to do. But
and
also
normalize these conversations.
Yes. But also let's now start having those conversations about self-care, about therapy, about psychology and seeking help and talking so that our friends, even people close to us, know about it. Yeah, so just started randomly. The first one, in fact, was just a hangout.
Yes,
right?
it actually was.
It was called, Pascal, show up with games. Ron, show up with a guitar. Someone else was told, let's try and do a talk about this. And we all met up. We got a location, hanged out, played games, board games. We also have musician friends. So they play music for us. So it's a good combination of games, music, and then our psychology friends came in
talk
play.
Therapy.
That's
basically.
amazing. How long was this ago? Like, when did you guys start?
We actually turning 2. Is it this month or next month?
Yeah.
Last month, actually, 2 years.
Wow.
Okay.
So it has
Congratulations,
been.
guys.
What's the impact been like? I'm sure because men.
Yes.
Self-love.
Actually-
What? What is that?
Actually, one thing we have found to be fascinating in this journey, and it's also something that other people also notice, especially when it comes to men, the games really help. So, for example, we'll go for an event. Our events must have those three aspects. It must have games, it must have music, and the talk therapy. So, a lot of, especially the ladies, they have observed. So, part of what we do, we also do corporate packages with organizations. And after we have a session, then when you're doing the debrief, now when you're speaking with the contact person, now they're like, we didn't know men could open up like that. Like these men have, and maybe it's the games. The games really help because we don't only do board games, we also do physical games. So when you interact, when you engage, especially the men like that, then after that you sit down, you start talking, you realize they're more open with talking about what frustrates them, whether it's whatever the topic may be, whether it's stress at work, stress at home, they're more open to share. But if you just come and tell them, okay, we are going to sit down and talk about, let's talk about our feelings, they will not talk. We found out the women talk way more when you approach it like that. But when you start with some kind of activity, you know, have people chilled, do a bit of physical exercise.
Make it competitive. Make them really fight for it.
So it's kind of like getting the men to bond first and then they open up.
Yes, because we have games which puts them into team. Yeah. So it's very competitive team. It's us against them. So you need to know your teammate. You need to trust your teammate on this side and then put everything you have to fight the other side. And then you switch them up and put them one-on-one or groups. It just makes them open up in different levels. Yeah. So people feel freer. People, by the end of it, they know several people. They've interacted with several people in such a nice way. They are okay being open with them.
What have you guys sort of learned about yourselves over this course of this journey? Take us through from the time, I'm sure these psychologist friends of yours, they're chickies. Take us through the time. Take us through from the time they were like, hey, self-love. And you guys, what was the first thought in your minds when you heard those words?
It's their problem. School took them through that. You don't see me forcing my economics and finance things down their throat. So it felt like you guys went to school and now you want all of us to do what you learned. I mean, we have doctor friends and nutritionist friends. They don't make us do that. But with our psychologist friends, they are very serious about it. Like they're not joking. They will sit us down. They'll ask us out for drinks. They'll get us a gift that's supposed to say something.
Yes.
So basically you were bribed.
We are forced to always bribe. I mean, both the carrot and the stick. They really got us into it.
But it's really nice of them to actually, take that step to sort of force you guys into it instead of just like, hey, we learned this, think about it.
This is good for you.
They kind of pushed you guys deep into it.
Yeah, they
and
did.
then what tipping point were you guys like, okay, this is required to improvement? Wait, was that the thought process that this is required to improve our mental health? Or did you guys just say, okay, fuck it, these guys have forced us enough?
No, it didn't get to that point. We are all around the same age, give or take a few years. So we know we are all on this path where we want to grow individually. We want to grow our careers. We want to grow our relationship life, grow our connection with our families. So we are very conscious about that. But it's never been clear how to go about it. So from their education, which they're trying to shove down our throats, they try to really help us understand what we need to do to grow. But each of us still committed to we need to grow. Individually, we all knew that we need to grow. So they're coming in and tell us, okay, this is an area you could look at, the emotional, the mental, and the psychological side of it. And we are open to that. And through what we do, we try and make people understand and be open, but it does take time. For me, it took, I think our third event. The first one, again, I just said it was just a hangout. Our first event was a hangout. A hangout out there, out in public, because the rest of the hangouts are usually just indoors, just friends drinking and having fun and playing games inside the house. So the first event was us going out. Second event, it felt like a responsibility. Pascal, show up with the games. Like, we need you at 6, and I'm terrible with time. We need you at 6.
This reminds me of the men's forum, bro.
Yeah, so by the time I'm getting to the third event is when I've had 3 different conversations with, not even my friends. At that time, I'd had 3 different conversations with other psychologists who volunteer. Just off the cuff, behind the scene conversation, not necessarily in the event, just talking about how are you, what are you doing, like, okay, so this seems important. And they follow my cue. So if I say about relationship, they'll follow that cue. They won't try to get me talking about alcohol and maybe whether I drink too much or not. So she really opened me up, got me to understand a bit more about what I can do for myself. And by the time we're going to our 4th event, I was really looking forward to that conversation, to hearing about that, and then doing that conversation with all of us in a circle so I can hear other people's opinion on it.
So is that where the podcast idea was born from?
No, actually the podcast idea is a totally different story. But just to peg off what he said, my journey was a bit different because now the person who initially had the idea for Games for Mental Health, he's called JT. Shout out to JT.
Bulinda.
So, yes. So we were with him in campus. I met him in first year. So he did psychology. I did political science. Then at some point, I think in second year, third year, I developed an interest in psychology as a discipline. Before that, I knew that what I was very much interested in was people's behavior. I was always fascinated to understand why some people did what they do. And especially the edge cases, the more drastic ones, it's very interesting for me just to understand. And I usually give this funny story, and it's our people from Western Kenya. You usually hear stories of, a man kills his father over a plate of ugali. and so that's what's written on the headlines. Mm-hmm. Like, a man kills father over a plate of ugali. But in my head, I'm thinking, the ugali wasn't the problem.
There's probably deeper resentment or something like that.
So you might find that maybe they had a disturbed relationship growing up. Maybe the father was physically abusive. Then he used to treat him badly. Then he eventually got to a point where he was physically on the same level as him. So maybe one day he walks into the house. He asks, "Where's dinner?" Then the mom says, "Oh, your dad ate everything." Then that's the tipping point. But we focus on the tipping point. We don't look at all these things that have happened before the ugali. So in my view, and this is what I found most fascinating, the more we focus on the ugali, the more we miss the point. Because the point is not the ugali. Now we need to find out what happened before this ugali. So when we had that conversation initially with JT about me joining Games for Mental Health, I actually asked him, I have some time to burn. Do you know any way I can volunteer? He was like, you can actually join the team and be the event organizer. I was like, sure, it aligns with my interest. And I've always said, before I die, I will be a trained psychologist. That is a guarantee. I don't know when exactly it will happen, but I know that is a field I'll do like formal education on. So that was kind of my journey. But how to answer your question, how it has changed, how the journey with Games for Mental Health has changed me personally is, okay, not that I'm way more open right now, but I really don't talk about my problems. I'd rather deal with my problems first. Then when I mention them, it's, it happened 1.5 years ago. I already sorted it. So it's like, that happened. I moved past it. Now I can talk about it. But when it's happening, it's like I shut everything out. I shut everyone out. And I want to work on this problem. So one of the people we work with at Games for Mental Health, she's called Chelsea. she usually says. She throws it in subtle ways. Like, you don't have to be strong all the time. You can open up, you can talk to me in case. Yeah, she usually like throws that everywhere. So it kind of makes you feel more comfortable and, you can actually talk to someone. Yeah.
So you've learned to start opening up when you actually have the problem.
A bit, yes.
Okay.
I'm making progress.
A bit. Okay.
Yes, I'm making
It's a journey.
No, but it's so nice that you've surrounded yourself with people who are taking the initiative to ask you, "Are you okay?" It's something that not many of our circles do that,
especially
apart from
guys.
the drinking.
Yes.
They usually call you on the weekend. Are you okay? Are you ready for Friday?
Yes.
You're ready for
on a
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have like people around you who open you up like that, I think it makes your life and your relationships healthier with everyone in general. Because I'm sure, like, I would say I would be one of those guys, lock in. I wouldn't let the problem really affect me, but in my mind, I know like I have these problems. I need to deal with them and I'm not going to talk to anyone about it. But it kind of affects your relationships because when you're dealing with something, you can see it on your face and energetically, everyone around you can feel it. So then people start asking you, what's wrong? So for me, it's like my parents, what's wrong? What's happening? And I'm just like, don't worry, I got it. And to them, they're just like, okay, why is this guy not opening up or is everything okay? Then they're stressing the hell out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you've mentioned that, I have a relating story. When I was in campus, there's a very bad breakup, my first major breakup I went through. And looking back, that coincided with a time when every time I used to come back home and I'm going back to school, my mom used to tell me, no, sinyamaze sana, don't be too quiet. Because now she realized that when this guy gets out of this house, he does not talk to anyone. But now when I was in school, I was spending a lot of time, trying to deal with this problem that I was dealing with, which, as you've said, maybe you might not notice just how much it's affecting the relationships around you, but people are noticing. You have withdrawn, you're not talking a lot, maybe you're not eating. I didn't eat. I ate. It was quite challenging. So it affected my diet, it affected my sleep, and people used to see it. So, but my focus was, let me deal with this first. Then once I get over this, I'm going to talk about it. Yeah.
Wait, your breakup caused you to close up?
Yes.
Oh, I thought the closing up caused your breakup.
No.
But let's dive more into it. So what was your journey like to become better from the breakup?
There's a funny story that my friends keep on saying. They keep on saying that my ways of coping with stress is too healthy.
It's too healthy.
They're like,
This is the first one.
they're like, we can't relate with you because, when we have stress, we go drink, we go party, we go. But
So that's a lot of people's ways of coping with stress, and it's not healthy at all.
yes.
Yeah, Rajveer sits at home.
I sit at home,
And
bro.
I think both of you are the healthy guys. You and I.
Let's dive into that. Healthy coping versus unhealthy coping.
So I remember the first breakup I went through, that's when I started working out. I had never worked out in my life. I didn't like sports growing up. I played football here and there, but it wasn't something that I was passionate about. I like watching football. I didn't like playing a lot. So I didn't used to exercise, nothing of the sort. But after that breakup, everything was actually, I keep on telling people that story, that my main priority wasn't even to I work out, I stay healthy. I can't sleep for more than 3 hours at any given time. So I just need to sleep because it's affecting my classwork, it's affecting everything because you're always fatigued. So I just needed to find a way to sleep. So I tried running, didn't work. I used to get tired.
Sorry, wait, just to track back a little bit. You're saying you couldn't sleep after your breakup?
Yes.
Or is it just generally you can't sleep?
No.
Okay, after your breakup.
Yeah,
okay,
after that breakup. So I couldn't sleep. So I tried running. I used to get tired, but it's not tiring enough for me to sleep. And one thing, I've never fancied alcohol, so I didn't consider that as an option. But I knew that people use that as an option. So I didn't fancy that because alcohol has just never been a thing for me. So one time I was doing my internship, then when I woke up, as I was preparing, as I was taking my tea, I was watching KBC. And there were these two trainers that they were talking about. And I remember the first thing I thought about when I looked at that trainer was, you look too bulky. How do you sleep with all those muscles? It looks very uncomfortable. Like, you look like you do not have a good time sleeping. Then I just ignored it. But then when I went to work, I think a few days later or a few weeks later, one of our colleagues mentioned, oh, by the way, we have a gym in the building and it's super cheap for the employees. You can sign up. So those dots connected. I didn't consciously connect them, but it connected. The interview KBC with, so, and it was like magic. The first time I went to the gym, I was so tired. I slept. I blacked out at 9 something. Then I woke up at around 5 and I was like, my God, I've missed this. So that's actually how I started working out. It was never, oh, stay healthy or keep your body fit. That was never my intention starting out. It was, I need time. I need to sleep and I can't seem to sleep. So I picked that as a habit. And till today, I've just stuck with it. At some point, it just becomes part of what you do. If you don't do it, it becomes, you actually get stressed because it has been like 2 months. I haven't worked out. It starts becoming. That's
me and Shalit right now.
every single day, we're like, oh shit, bro, man, we're going through so much. We want to go back to the gym.
Exactly.
We're like, let's do this season, right? You guys are going to get seasons. We want to get over with the season.
Let's finish the season and then go back to the gym. And it's so funny. We started off with an episode saying we're so strict about the gym. Look at us now.
But the good thing is now we'll have the same program. It will start from scratch. Before it was, I was 1 month into the program, and then he started after 1 month. So now we can keep each other in check. We're like, bro, did you do your reps?
Hopefully. So wait, once you started getting your sleep, were you still thinking about your breakup, or did you just like, done, I'm good now, I'm managing to sleep?
No, I still thought about it, but at least now I had one less problem to think about. Actually, 2 less problems to think about, because with gym, you get hungry. So you start eating. So it fixed my diet and my sleep. So yes, I still had that problem to deal with, but now I had 2 less problems to worry about.
And I think time as well, because now you have, apart from dealing with schoolwork and being social with your friends, now you have to commit more time to this.
Yes. It just becomes, it made the process easier for me. It really did.
What about you? So breakup, how'd you cope with it? Unhealthy ways of coping.
But no, this guy looks like he's had a few.
No. And don't lie, I know your story.
I had one really major, my
villain story.
Villain story.
Yeah.
Let's go for it, man. Let's dive deep into that.
For me, my breakup was tough because it was very unexpected. So unexpected that it took me 3 months just to process it. While still, so I always think back and I say that breakup took 3 months, because from the moment it started up to when I accepted that nimeachwa, it's a whole lot of time. Very unexpected. So I thought we were on a break, which is different from a breakup, because a break is, according to what I thought at that time,
you're just chilling.
Yeah, we chill away for like a week or 2 weeks. Then we come back and share
you're
what
like,
we
it
learned.
can't have ended.
Yeah, what happened? What you learn?
Yeah.
Like, you good? What you do? What you want talking to me? What you watch? Do you have a new movie?
When are you coming back?
It's been 2 weeks.
And at that time, 2 weeks is a really long time.
It's long because there's no communication or nothing. So that happened, and by the time I'm realizing that it's a breakup, not a break, I think it was 1 month. So when are you coming back? Didn't come back after 2 minutes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so 1 month down the lane, I'm still trying to talk, still trying to fix things out, but not working. So,
But she was communicating, or you were ghosted.
I wouldn't call that communication because
You were talking to yourself.
I hate that. I hate it when that happens. No.
I'm talking to myself and
Linkin
she's talking
Park
through
style.
her stories.
Oh my gosh, the stories. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, different type of communication. Yeah. Do you call that communication still? So that was tough. Took me a lot of time just to accept that it's over. And then it took me even long to figure out what I wanted to do. Because for me, it was coming when I was just finishing or about to finish uni. So we were in the same class or thereabouts. So we were both graduating on the same year. But at that time, we were kind of living together. So it was... it was a whole life mapped out, at least for the immediate after. So we both graduate, we both look for jobs, we both find a way to make ends meet while staying together. Yeah, we're in this together. I mean, in a tough world, we were just starting out. It felt nice. So losing that felt crazy. It did turn me into a villain. I went mad. I went mad after I accepted. I was just angry at a lot. I didn't have my psychologist friends at that time. So I was just angry at a lot of things. I got violent, harm, self-harm, breaking things. I got really crazy. It really did turn me into a villain about now with other people. So everyone noticed. I didn't tell them, but everyone around me could tell. You know, they were talking about the energy, how you react with people. Everyone could tell I'm not okay. Everyone, everywhere could, even at work. So it started affecting my work. I wasn't able to show up on time, deliver on time, be there, contribute mentally to the conversation at work, to solutions that we need. Yeah, I was a skeleton of myself. I remember there was a time my dad asked me, I think I also couldn't sleep, but for me, it was late at night. And then in the morning, I couldn't wake up. So I'd be up until 3, 4 a.m., unable to sleep, just messing around on phone, on social media and stuff, but still unable to sleep. And then when I do finally get to sleep, I cannot get out of bed in the morning. So at 7, 8, I wake up, I'm unable to get out of bed. I try, fall back to sleep a few minutes, I wake up again, it's 9, still not. So I remember there's a day I was waking up at like 11, then having been breakfast. So at that time, we broke up and I went back home with my folks. So I'm there having breakfast at 11. My dad finds me. He's like, don't you have work? I mean, it's a Tuesday. You're not going to work. I told him I'm going. He's like, it's 11. That's even worse. It's better
Where are you going?
Not going. Where are you going at 11? But they don't live in the house. It's midday or past midday. I get to the office at 1, and that day I had a meeting at 11. When I finally got the courage to get out of bed is when the meeting was starting. But
Physical meeting.
But I just couldn't do it earlier. So I just texted my friend who we were working with. I was told I can't make it. I just can't make it. And that's all I said. He texted back so many times. I couldn't communicate. So I just need to communicate the bare minimum. I can't make it. Yeah. So I left the house at 11, get to the office around 1 or 2. And he's just looking at me like, are you okay? Like, you have responsibilities. I'm sorry, I know what you're going through. But dude... Yeah, that wasn't going through it.
In your head, you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. I don't care about responsibilities. My girl just broke up with me, dude.
My life just ended.
And you've actually reminded me something that you talked about when you were exchanging notes at some point. And the funny thing about breakups is your life might be coming to an end, but the world is continuing.
Yeah.
Like, the sun is still up at 6.
It's
still going
it's
down
still
at 6
going
p.m.
on,
the sun had the audacity to rise.
Yeah, imagine. It's the worst.
Like everything ended.
Yeah. Like
And sometimes you just want the time to stop because you're just in so much pain.
Yeah.
And people think men don't feel hurt and pain.
But we do.
That's an interesting thing, because I was talking to a female friend of mine, and I told her how my first heartbreak took me like 8-9 months. I take very long to recover. Took me like 8-9 months to recover, and she was like, "But you're a man."
Bro, you're lucky. 8-9 months. Mine, man, fucking 2 years, dude.
Yeah.
Insane. Both times. Both. Like, I was in 2 amazing relationships, and both times it took me forever to get over it, man.
Yes.
Insane.
So for someone who takes like maybe a month or 2, they really don't understand. And especially when they hear that coming from a guy, they're like, we are used to a woman being out on a Friday night, then breaking down in the middle of the night, saying how she misses her ex and all that. But men don't do that. And since men don't do that, people just assume, you're fine. Like, you're not, yeah.
I think men go through worse. Okay, I'm not comparing heartbreaks to heartbreaks, but for women, it's so easy to express it out with their girls. Maybe have some wine and just cry it out maybe 3 weekends in a row. The fourth weekend, she'll probably have another guy. And you as a man, you're still confused. You're like, shit, where do I start?
Yes.
And I think that's such an important statement that you bring up. Women easily get validation from someone else after a breakup. Us guys, it's just like, I can't find another girl. What am I gonna do?
You can't tell anyone.
And you're like, okay, should I try sliding
Should
to
I try
another
sliding
DM?
back into her DMs? It's the worst. I think that's what prolongs our pain even more, is because you feel so alone.
Yeah. For mine, I shared with only like two other people, Ron and one other friend. They were the only ones who knew what I was going through. But everyone else, from their understanding, even if they inquire, I just tell them I'm not okay, I'm going through things, but I won't divulge anymore. Even when I'm during that period I was drinking with other friends, I wouldn't say anything. I'll just be, yo, I need a drink. Let's go. I'm buying until I get broke. I don't have a future to save money anymore. But I still wouldn't be very open about this is what I'm going through. I'll just be drinking with some guys, showing back home at 3 a.m., sleep through the night, wake up the following day, go drink again with different people.
Did you ever have what's it called? A drunk call or a drunk text?
Yeah,
You did. Don't worry. Simple.
Wasn't picked, I wasn't responded. So that happened twice, and I've never done that again.
But this is the issue, right? That we are so dependent on the other person that if they leave you can't be yourself. And what I had learned from my breakup was being yourself and being happy with yourself, even being alone with yourself. And if you're okay, then you're the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
I was dating someone for 4 years continuously. Then the last 3 years was pretty much on and off. But for me, it was like, oh, I'm going to marry this girl, high school.
Yeah.
It's going to be the perfect story, everything.
Yes.
So from what I heard was she was with other men there in another country. So I was in Kenya. She was in Malaysia. Then I went to India to study. And then again, she's in Malaysia. So there's still the time difference factor and everything. But again, it's both sides. Sometimes I was a dick. And her probably whatever she did. So when we broke up, that breakup was, I think it made me a better man. One way, yes, I went through everything what you guys have mentioned, the pain and the guilt, and maybe I should have responded better, maybe.
Yes.
So you start doing, when you get into this whole self-reflection phase, you're like, okay, shit, I fucked up. So it's both sides, maybe even you fucked up, you fucked up, but it's more like, hey, there's something that now I need to work on. Now I was really fat. Right? Like I was 110 kilos. So I'm like, what do I do now? I'm depressed. Like, I'm not depressed because at that time, if you tell your boys that, yo, dude, my chick broke up with me. You get another one. Too many fish in the sea. So many fish in the sea. What? So me, I'm getting confidence, from those boys, and they're like, let's just go for a drink, man. Don't stress it. And then you've suppressed that whole issue.
Yeah.
But then I started working out. So for me, in one way, yes, it made me a better man, but then I became a fuckboy because I kept losing weight. I started forming big muscles and abs and all that shit. Now I'm just with fucking different women like every weekend. Till now, every time the women used to see me, they're like, Nairobi's fuckboy. Nairobi's fuckboy. Windy fuckboy. So,
and then the way the Indian community is so small.
And it was so funny, Like, I love my wife, but she's even, at least I had to tell her, like, look, every time I'm working, this one, she's like, even this one, this one, even this one. But the worst one is that one that you said, the one, the villain. So I meet this amazing girl. We have the best conversations, everything. We go out and we dived into a relationship. Like, I was single for about, I think, 4 years or so. But this one was, that one, everything is going quick. And we're like, oh, it's perfect. Now, I feel everything is perfect. But at the back, she has another 3 boyfriends. For a
second time.
Yeah, so it's more like, now that one was traumatic because you're at an age where you feel that this is now actually the woman that you're going to marry. You go out of your way to do things for their family. She comes out, she kind of pretends to go out of her way for your family. And I remember when it was so funny, me and her were seated together. We were actually in bed watching TV. And this guy messages me and says, why are you with my girl? And I'm like, excuse me? That is my girl. and then I'm like, what is this? She starts crying. So I knew, of course, she's, I'm like, so all I tell her is, you know what? Just get the fuck out of the house. I'm done. And this guy has like timestamps. Yeah, like they were together like day before yesterday or something like that. I'm like,
mention the phone thing. The phone thing is funny. The one where she had like 1 million phones.
Yeah, so she had 3 phones, and apparently there were other guys behind in the background, and even I had no idea. What? So there was a time when my photos went off the gram, and okay, maybe she just wants to do her own thing or whatever, open profile and stuff. That day I wanted to cry like a little bit. I'm not even lying to you. So for me as a man, I don't know how to cry. Yeah. So I'm like just in pain. Then I tell my family in a group, I'm telling my mom and my bro, like, this is what happened. My mom is like, I told you so. She's not right for you. I'm like, no, this is what I want to listen to. Yeah. And then my bro came home. He's like, yo, do you want to go for a drink? I'm like, no. That night, something triggered me about relationships. I'm like, fuck it, I'm never going to get into a relationship because it was so painful. Dude, I'm not even lying to you. My chest was hurting. I feel like my whole world has gone upside down and I don't know what to do. I started having insomnia and, I'm like, why me? What did I do wrong? And then I kept blaming myself. I'm like, because you didn't make enough effort or you didn't communicate or whatever, yeah? It's because of you. Luckily, then me, him, it's a couple of our boys. We have a group called the Boys Group. And I had another 2 buddies who would go drink and we just speak about life. But now these 2 men started like crying on the table and being vulnerable after a few beers. So yeah, that was my night of like just crying. And like I had a few and I cried and I felt better. And I'm like, and then they took me through it and I'm like, oh, talking about shit is very important.
Yeah.
So that's where like those 3 men.
That's when the first time you're talking about it.
Yeah,
with
the first
others.
time. Yeah. Otherwise I was just suppressing it. Suppress and not talk about it. And then even I lost interest completely to even make effort with any other woman and I was not interested at all. Like I'll just be like, if I invest my time, she's going to hurt me. That mindset.
Yes.
I locked my mindset that I'm done. That all women.
Why start something that's going to end?
And
that's actually like such a sad place to be. Why start something that's going to end?
Yeah,
I feel like so many guys go through that same fear.
True, especially if you go through that that kind of relationship where you thought this was the one and you never really imagined it ending, then it ends. Then I think you come to the painful realization that any relationship can end. And if you hadn't had that thought when you are in this other relationship, then it completely changes how you think. Now you think, a lot of people now start thinking, they're all going to end anyway. Yes. So why
even try?
Why even try?
And it's traumatic, dude. It's like it puts you in a pause where you feel like you're standing alone and everything around you is just white.
Yes.
There's no one around you. I'm not lying to me. The moment I saw that message, my heart stopped beating, bro. I'm not even lying to you. It dropped.
Yeah.
I'm like, out of all people. And then at that time, you're like, what the fuck? As a man, you're like, first you're pissed, you're angry, you want to hit something. Yeah. And then you try calm yourself down. Then like all these emotions, up, down, and you're just there. You're like, what the
trying to process everything. You don't even know how to process it. And we do feel guilty. A lot of people think men don't feel guilty. They end up just living the relationship being okay. But men have that guilt that comes in there. Is there something different I could have done? Yeah. Is there something that I would have done to avoid this or to save it? One of the two. Can you really go down that rabbit hole? It's even worse.
It's crazy. But weirdly enough, that's what's brought us all here.
I think we were all good enough and lucky enough to have friends who help us recover. Because I believe that helped you crying and at least talking to people. Yeah. That really helps us get to a point where you can process it, we can be better, and maybe see a bit of hope in what's to come. Because I'm still there. I'm still at a point where the first one really did show me, because I thought that would never end. And then that ended. I realized
everything can end.
Nothing is permanent. Everything ends. But over time, we get to see some positive in it, that there is a reason to try. Yeah. There is some of it that are worth the time, even if it will end. I mean, some things end in death. Yeah. So everything will end.
All marriages end.
Everything will end
in death or in divorce. But
so
they all
either way, that's worth trying.
Yeah, it's you have mentioned that, and it's something that I've spoken with Pascal before, and there's this clinical psychologist I listen to. I really like his messages. He's called Jordan Peterson. And
fave.
Yeah. So he was talking about trust in kind of two ways. So one, trust as an act of naivety, and secondly, trust as an act of courage. And the message I got from his lecture was, it's better for you to trust someone as a way of showing courage, like trust as a form of courage. And how he explained it was, if I trust you as an act of courage, I know that you can double cross me. I know as a human being you have that capacity, but I decide, you know what, I'm going to take you for your word, and I'm going to trust that you're not going to betray me, even though I know that you can. But trust as an act of naivety is, Uni bro, he can never, he can, this cannot happen. So I was looking at how I was viewing that relationship that I thought would never end. And looking back, it was as an act of naivety. Like I couldn't comprehend it ending. It was just like, this is it. Like nothing could go wrong. But now that's one of the things that leads us to that point where if it does end, now you take it to the other extreme. Now you think everything can end, so why even bother? But I think now the lesson I got from his lecture was doing or showing trust as an act of courage is the best alternative compared to act of naivety, because you know this person has the capacity to betray you. As a human being, they have that capacity. But you decide, you know what, I know as a human being you can do that, but let me trust that you won't. Not that, as a child, if you're 3-4 years old, if your dad tells you to jump from the 10th floor, you're like, dad is there. There's nothing. True. Yeah. So if you maintain that mentality as a 25-year-old, the world is not.
So he just said his age out loud.
But so that's one of the things that I took from one of his
So lectures. You all had a phase of naivety.
Yeah.
4 years of that.
One thing just to add, there's something that I started doing, like after all these breakups. You got to do your due diligence and your assessments, man. Like, I'm not lying to you. Yes, I'm not saying that all women are bad. I'm married, so I'm happy. But some women are crazy, bro. Like, so you really need to know what you're getting yourself into, and don't do it for the picture that social media. Everyone's on Instagram having their girls. You just want to post a photo, and then both of you are in a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I think a lot of men, sadly, we get into relationships because it's like, whoa, woman finally hitting on me, yay, and she's hot, damn. And it just turns out but due diligence is really important. And I feel like that's something that I have very much been. I think I've always done my due diligence.
Mm-hmm. You don't seem sure.
But no. I do my due diligence. Like, I won't lie. The last 2 girls that I've been with, freaking, I would still say it now, wife material. And that's why the guilt hurts worse, because it's just like, fuck, did I
It
lose the
was
one
a
that got
good-
away?
yeah.
But that level of, you hear it from so many horror stories from your boys, man.
Yes.
Shit, that girl, like, she's cheating with like 5 other guys. You're like, I don't want to end up with someone like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you don't want that. But also, everything has its own timing, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you always find the perfect one with time.
Yeah.
And the moment you stop looking, wallahi, I mean, like, I swear.
But I can say something that in some circles it's considered controversial. But I think one thing that really does men a disservice is how, generally speaking, men don't express emotions the same way women do. So, and for different reasons, partly because it's not normalized for like men to cry. That's why personally I've even said it in one of our episodes that I don't particularly advise men to cry. I just advise them not to bottle it, not to keep it in. Because people have different ways of expressing their frustrations. Because here's my thought process. If our energy goes towards encouraging men to cry, that means that's the cue we'll be looking for us to know that this man needs help.
If he hasn't cried,
But a
he
lot
hasn't
of men
felt it.
don't cry. So a lot of men just keep it in. And now it's more common for women to cry. That's why when a woman starts crying, everyone pays attention. They're like, things are not okay. What's up? But you can be here going through worse things compared to her, but you're just chilled. You're not crying. But since you are not crying, then people are not paying attention to you. So what I try to implement in my own life is, and with my friends, is I know how Pascal behaves, for example. So when he's going through a bad time, I won't wait for him to cry. I'll just look for those. Maybe he starts partying too much, or he starts going
Drinking
out too
too
much.
much.
Yeah. all of a sudden, he's every weekend hiking. I'm like, you're trying to distract yourself because you cannot hike every weekend to save your life. What is happening? Like, what is happening? So you look for those deviances from normal behavior, and that's what I would personally suggest people to look out for. So especially when it comes to men, don't wait for your friend to start crying for you to find out that, my friend is going through a tough time. Just look, your friend. So when they start doing things that are different from how they are, you know that I might not know exactly what is bothering you, but I know something's wrong.
That's a great lesson in friendship. Okay, I'll speak from my experience. Well, like when things were just going haywire for me, no one noticed.
Yeah.
And my work was suffering, and the only people who noticed were like my family. They're like, okay, you're not doing your vlogs, or you're not traveling as much. What's happening? But your friends, the only guy, I will not lie, who hit me up and saved me in my time is this guy. And I've never told you this, bro. Don't act surprised, but I won't lie. Like, I love you to the freaking core because we've been friends for so long, but it's always been like a high buy type of thing. And then after the breakup, and like I just felt so lonely, and then this guy started hitting me up like, do you want to hang out? You want to hang out? You want to hang out? I don't know if you noticed that I was going through shit or anything, but because of him, like I started building more of a social life, and that helped with now being able to speak to people because, it was coming in line with like-minded friends.
Yeah.
So then it leads me to the question of what about all the other friends that I had back then who didn't even think to ask, like.
But we had the conversation of like where you said you're an introvert and it's very hard to like be out there. So and then I asked him, bro, you're always behind the camera.
I don't know what conversation this is because like I've never like I was an introvert back in high school.
Not that introvert, but he was easy on the camera. But when we'd go out, and I'd be like, now we're going to hang out with this guys. We're going to hang out with this guy.
Oh yeah.
So
I guess that was
barriers of like coming into the whole social
I guess I retreated into a shell, right? Like after the breakup, just went completely into a shell. So then breaking out of it, meeting new people. Because again, that same thing of you trust unfortunately with that naiveness, you trust someone so much, and it's just like, wait, this ended. I thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. So then now it's like, who else can you trust? You know. So I guess that then for me expressing as the man that I am, it was like, yo, I'm introverted. I can't.
Trust issues.
Yes, you start developing trust issues. You're like, I cannot. And then you even start seeing red flags where there are no red flags.
Oh my God.
Sadly. You meet a new chick, she's really nice, then you hit it off. Then one night she doesn't pick your call, then you remember 3 years ago, your ex did not pick your call and she was doing something.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, are you guys suffering from that? Because I am, dude. I don't get a text back for like 2 hours. Before I was so secure, man. Like in my relationship, I was insanely secure. She would be like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friend. Go, man. I'm sitting here editing. I'm chill. Now it's like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with ABC. And I'm like, she's not going to reply for like 2 hours. It's fucked.
Really with.
Yeah, like it's so fucked up, man.
It really is.
We no longer have trust by naivety. I mean, we after living through it and getting hurt through that, most of our trust now just goes by, courage? Where she could be with someone else. If she's not picking, it could be anything, but now we have that as an alternative, which we don't focus on it, but it's not something we don't think would ever happen anymore.
But breaking that mindset is super hard. Even if it's with your boys, it's very, very hard because at the back of his head, he's still thinking about the trauma, like whatever the girl put him through.
Yeah. And that's why he talked about that being your villain story, because I've known you for long enough. I've known you long enough for me to have seen the transition from the type of boy you were in high school, then the type of young man you were before that relationship, to the type of man you evolved to become after that affected you. I was like, now the chicks that meet this guy, I'm like, you should have met him several years ago. He didn't have some of these issues you're complaining about. Like he was.
But I want to dive into two things. The guys that you were before your relationships and the changes after, because of course guilt causes you to change.
Trust,
That's number one. And then number two, from the way you guys are speaking, I'm seeing you guys as very healthy guys who would get into very healthy relationships. But Nairobi is full of toxic people. And the problem with toxic people is toxic and healthy don't attract. Because we see it. We see them. We can sniff toxicity a mile away and we're just like, peace. And that cuts out like 90% of the population. So how you guys are kind of handling that?
Oh, the one that you've seen that change better from seated now as an audience. Let me try and see what I've seen. And then you tell me now from your third eye perspective. Before
you gotta be self-aware, bro. I'm sure you know it, bro.
before I was very trusting. I definitely had trust by naivete, so definitely trust. And I was open. Like, didn't believe in pain or hurt. I was always ever smiling. When that happened, just turned my world upside down and showed me the impossible can happen. I no longer trust people, especially now getting into relationship, because I always feel nowadays, ever since that they are definitely holding something on their side. They have an entire life and an entire time away from me, and I only get to see and perceive when I am with her. So when we are not, I do not know anything that's happening. And when I'm also not with the person I'm with, dating, I no longer feel I can be fully open, because it will end. We've determined it, so everything ends. But that means all the pouring I'm doing now, all the opening I'm doing now won't be for anything if the person won't be there for us to talk about it when it's no longer an issue.
So you just messed up now. my question was like in a positive side. This guy's gone dark, man.
It's messed up. Hence the psychologists, that's why they come in. Because now we get to see some of these things and shed light. Because some of them I hadn't noticed. I hadn't noticed how negative I am about long-term things, thinking they don't happen, until I had a conversation with one of our team, and she helped me see that. So these things really do come out slowly. The positive, is there any? Okay, here's a positive. Your friends, and something you also said, your friends push you up. You know, when you're down and hurt and brokenhearted, they just remind you the good ones. Like, yeah, there's a lot of fish. There's next time. There's something you can do better. They just psych you up. But other friends are there to allow you to be sad, to allow you to be hurt and
process you.
Yeah, not be okay, and be there to help you process. And then from there, they'll take your guide, whether you still want to be hurt a bit more or now start walking back slowly. But now I know the kind of friends I have. I have friends who I know they'll just psych me up and push me up. So when I need that, that's cool. That's what I'm going for. And I know I have friends I can be fully open and tell them everything. I am more reliant on my friend than I am on my lovers. Because I've realized that lovers will come and go, but the friend is who will be there longer. We can have this conversation 10 years later and look back and see this is how we progress. This is how I learned from it. Yeah.
And you started going to the gym as well.
I started before. Oh, I started running. No, I started running. I didn't, because I used to do gym before. For me, after the breakup, I picked up running.
Yeah.
Because
I wanted away from the problem.
not to make my body like show her. My comfort.
But what about, of course, you asked that question, where did I go wrong in this relationship?
Yeah.
So are there certain things that you've picked out in that reflection that you're like, okay, when I go into the next relationship, I'll make sure not do that again? Have you had those reflections?
I have just areas where I went wrong. I have seen them. Some confrontations, some fights were really not necessary. I've learned to compromise what I need to compromise on. I've looked back, I've just seen I was kind of very strict on how things should be done. One of the reasons we fought was she did something I asked her to do, but she didn't do it the same way I wanted. So that was apparently a big fight.
I relate to that, yeah.
Maybe you need to chill down and just take a compromise on that and get to actually appreciate that she tried. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, one, picking up that lesson that it's probably for the best if you start looking at or trusting people as a form of courage, like having that realization that people are human and they can go wrong. And so that mindset, I know it's not, it might not sound substantive, but it really changed a lot in terms of how I was approaching people. And also that reflection really helped. Like he has said, I'm also someone who is, if we are doing this, we're doing this exactly like this way. So just trying to see how to compromise, being a bit more flexible and also opening up, because that was also part of the thing that I hadn't seen before was when I used to go through a challenge, I used to close off and try to deal with. It's like it's my problem. But after the relationship, when you reflect, you get to realize that this also affected that other person because you are supposed to be a team. So when it happens the first time, then she notices you're blocking or you're shutting her out. She feels bad. Then it happens the second time, the third time, the fourth time. The problem comes when she starts getting used to it. Now you realize there's that disconnect. And once there's that disconnect and you haven't noticed what's causing the disconnect, then it's almost like there's no way back because now you have a problem that you can't see, you're not seeing. So just looking at some things like that, like, yeah, I should have been more flexible when it came to that, or maybe I should have been more open. I should have been more trusting, because it kind of hit me as a funny coincidence, or rather juxtaposition of the fact that one, I had trust in form of naivety, but at the same time, I couldn't trust her enough for me to open up about some of the problems that I was facing. I was looking at them as my problems. So I deal with my problems, then I come and tell her, oh, by there, 3 weeks ago I wasn't speaking to you. Yeah, I was going through this, but now it's done. But now you get to realize that, especially when you are in a partnership, because that's really what a relationship is. It's a partnership. You can't afford to do that a lot. Yeah, you need to be open with the person. I mean, if you can't be open with them with such things,
Then what's the point?
what's the point of being in this relationship?
There's one major one that Mwatu helped me see that I didn't see until he helped me understand it. And I also saw it in yours after your breakup. We both gave our crowns away. Since we were very close to the people we were dating and almost living together and just spending a lot of time together, they became part of our identity. Individually, of course. But they became part of our identity. What we do in our free time, where we go on weekends, where we go to drink, and even which friends we hang out with became a factor of both of us combined, not just one individual. And as young men, that really stifled our growth because we were growing, not exactly in their direction, but growing with them, not growing individually. So when we lost that, and for me it was also because for me that one person held a lot of crowns. They were the center of my life. They were the future. I mean, everything. That one person is everything for you. So when you lose that, we just lost part of our identity, part of our personality, and we had to just rethink, okay, do I really like doing this? Yeah. Or was I just doing it because they even like this series that we are watching?
And then when you get out of such a relationship, you realize you have a lot of free time. Like, oh my God, I have so much time. Because now, for someone like me, I know it has changed a bit right now because I picked up other things that are preoccupying my time. But I used to just like... Friday nights, we used to have so many fights with this guy because he's telling me there's this really cool event that we can go to. I'm like, nah, I just like
just chilling indoors with your girl.
Yeah, like that was enough fun time for me. Like I don't have to go out. I don't have to socialize with people. Like I know my future is right here. So why you go look for your future? You go look for your future elsewhere.
Yeah, the dynamics of all relationships change. Okay, especially when you're in a relationship and when you're out of it.
Yes.
So recently, a friend of mine, they parted ways. Now it's like they are parting ways, but now I have to break up with someone else.
Yes.
Yeah. And some who get into a relationship, it's what you see. They shell themselves away from all the friends and everything.
Yeah.
We're so used
I've
to them.
noticed that, and it's so annoying, man.
Yeah.
You get your boy, he's gone into a relationship. We know a boy. We have a man in our fuck.
So it's sad because then it's like when you try to reach out to that boy that you'd open up about your problems, and the guy's like, hey, Paul, man, I'm busy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit, now I have to find another boy.
Exactly.
No, you're all alone for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
But there's something that you said that you surround yourself with men who elevate you, but you also need men who will listen.
And allow you to be down.
Yeah.
Not not push you.
And also being like-minded and understand where you're coming from. Not like you're saying your story and then, bro, me to my girl.
Yeah.
This to me. And you're like, dude, I've come to wine. Let me finish.
And just in addition to what you've said, one thing that I always stress when we are having conversations, not just with him, but my other friends as well, is in addition to the qualities that you have mentioned in terms of how your friend should interact with you, what I value above all those is honesty. Mm-hmm. I really need my close circle to be honest with me because I don't want to be in a situation where I am messing up. Let's say I've gone through a bad breakup, then I'm not really dealing with it in the healthiest way. Then they're like, no, we can't tell Ron because, he'll think we are haters. No, those are not the kind of people. Or no, let him just process. Yes, they are allowed to let me process my feelings how I'd like to, but I've given them the permission. If it gets to a point where it's not healthy, then they can tell me, Appa, you are
be
not.
straightforward and guide them.
like here you are going a bit off. You need to change this course of action. When I stop doing something productive, they're like there's a time, it wasn't breakup related, but there was a time I was going through a really hard time. Then I even stopped trying to make progress career-wise. Then I always tell him this story when I'm laughing, because he told me, Ron acha ujinga. Like, those are the exact words he told me. Oh, don't be stupid.
Wake up.
And I was like, wait, I'm almost crashing. Why are you telling me? But I really valued that honesty, because he saw the trajectory I was going towards. It was not really good. Then he was like, I know you're going through a tough time, but you have the rest of your life to live. So how about we focus on a more healthy way of dealing with the stress that you're dealing with? And even when he was going through a really hard time, I reminded him of that. I told him, I'll give you the same courtesy that you gave me of being honest with me. So what you're doing right now is not healthy. And I won't sit here. I don't want to have the kind of friends, you know how people go through a bad time, they pick unhealthy habits. Then when they're in their like mid 50s, they're in some podcast talking about recovering alcoholics or recovering drug addicts. Then they start asking, like, I had all these friends and no one told me that what I was doing was wrong. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to have those kinds of friends around me. I want my friends to be honest with me, to tell me, here, this is not good.
That's one good thing that I think you and I picked up, was giving each other a reality check.
Yes.
Because the moment he was shrewd from day one, now I've learned how to accept it.
Yeah.
If he sugarcoated the shit out of me, oh bro, I would have never grown.
Yes.
Same thing if now that we keep each other in check, and it's shrewd.
It's blunt.
It's blunt as
painful.
fuck. And I'm not lying to you.
It pisses us off, bro.
It pisses you off, but you will take it in as a man. And that's how men love it. The problem is this: we're used to this baby.
So it gets a bit harsh. You're like,
Hey, with your boys, if they give you advice shrewdly, I'm not lying to you. You absorb it like in a sec. It's within your system, and then you look back, you're like, oh shit. For me, okay, it takes 30 minutes. But yeah, we look into each other and be like, okay, this is where you're going wrong. Like sometimes maybe, if I'm messing up in my relationship, he told me, bro, man, you got to spend time with your wife.
I was actually telling him off before this. Before he opened you guys the door, I was like in the middle of it, man. He told me something. His bro knows. His bro heard it. He did hear it. I'm just like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, man. So this was the first time, like, me and her had a very stupid fight, and it was over text. And again, text is the communication is misunderstood.
Very bad.
It's very misunderstood.
yeah.
So for me, what did I do? I went and I didn't even come home. I just went to my boy's place. We were just chilling there and hanging out and just drinking and suppressing and all that. But then when the next day when I came home, I'm like, shit, I fucked up. Yeah, but then I was telling him that I didn't come home. I just ran away from the fight but I told him I had too much going on. Sometimes you have so much going on, and it did take a toll. But then today I told her, look, I'm really, really sorry. That was not me. It wasn't even a version of me. But and this was my first time escaping. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to come home and face the issue.
He's like, I went to sleep at a friend's house. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You could have slept on your couch. Like, what is that bullshit, bro? We have a podcast over here talking about like coping and shit, and then and then you guys come in.
But that's the thing, man. As much as we try and prove ourselves, even sometimes we sleep, we fuck up, we want to run away, we don't want to face the situation. As much as we speak about it, but you have to be really truthful. Sometimes as men, you are scared, man. You have fear. That is why most of our relationships didn't work out, because we don't want to face the issue. Out of 100, this is probably one that I am like, I can't. It's sometimes as a man, you feel weak.
Yeah.
And when I went to a friend who elevated my thoughts and told me, look, you need to sit down, have a conversation. And when he was telling me that, now I'm feeling bad. That, there is something wrong with me I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But if I was with the other boys, bro, come, bana, 2 tequila shots, what woman here, what one, you want a mama here.
So you have to know where to go for help, because when you need it.
Yeah, definitely. You need the right people around you.
Yeah, and I would also advise the guys, that if you look at your circle and you don't have at least one person who you can talk to when you are really going through it, then you really need to reconsider your circle. Because you need to have at least one person you can sit down with when you are really at your worst and tell them, life is not really taking me how I thought it would, or this relationship is, for one reason or another, life is just not going how I wanted it to go. And I just wanted to talk to someone about this. If all you have is guys who, I appreciate the fun that comes with, the sarcasm, like what? So you want to cry? Like I do appreciate that, but at the end of the day, after all those after all that fun and games, like at the end of the day, can you now sit down with at least one of them and tell them, now on a serious note, like this is really not working out for me and I need some help here. Do you have that one person in your life? I would advise, if you don't have that one person, then if the only person you can talk to is a therapist in your life, I mean, I'm probably not doing justice to Games for Mental Health because we need the business, but
you're fucking up. Like it's your sole responsibility, and especially it comes down to self-love, right? It's your responsibility to make sure you have the right friends, and if you're not, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. And it's great that you bring out that point. This is going to be like super deep, but there was a time I was having suicidal thoughts. Every time I was supposed to travel after my breakup, I would just like break down and start crying. I'm like, I don't want to travel. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do this anymore. So number one, I was sabotaging my entire career, which I worked so hard to build. So that started sabotaging. Then you just stop feeling like that value. And especially I would say in my experience, like, 50,000 people watching me every single video, and like now that's all cut off. Like that's also a sense of validation, and then also a sense of like, now I just feel valueless.
Yeah.
So I had a friend, we used to travel together. And we met after so many months because she traveled out of the country, and like I didn't have this friend in my life anymore, sadly. So it's like I lost my relationship, and then this one of my best friends just leaves, and I'm like, fuck, I have no one to speak to. But when she came back, she wasn't really in the light of what I was going through, and she was talking about like all these amazing things that she was going through. Me on my side, I was going through suicidal thoughts because I just felt like absolute shit. And while she was speaking and talking about all these great things, I'm just like, I want to kill myself. And she looked at me like this, like she looked at me like a guy would. And she's just like, that boy who quit dentistry, he's looking at you right now and he's going like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, get yourself together, man. And just that one sentence, that boy who quit dentistry, that sentence, I feel like saved my life, because fuck, man, from there, I just started, I'm like, okay, I need to work on this. It's going to be really hard. I'm at like the pit, but I need to start climbing upwards. It took forever to climb upwards, but that one sentence, because of that one good friend that was in my life at that time, I needed her.
Yeah.
That started helping me climb up.
Yeah.
So important to have those kinds of people in your life, man.
It is. Now you can imagine if you're in that position and the only option you have is a therapist and you've never really considered therapy before. So
if you're broke.
Exactly. So
it's expensive.
It seems like an uphill task to even start that process. But if you have a close friend who you can have that conversation with, it really helps. Yeah, so we were having a similar conversation a while back with Pascal, and we were just talking about the different forms of suicidal thoughts that you can have. Because one, you can be in a position where you want to have like commit intentional harm on yourself, like self-harm maybe, and it gets to a point where you can even start thinking about what's the least inconveniencing way or the least painful way for me to, ask myself and just leave space for everyone else. So there's that. Suicidal thoughts can look like that. On the other hand, they can look like you not minding putting yourself in dangerous situations. Like you can know that this street is clearly not a good, it's not safe to go through, but you're just at a point in life where you just don't care anymore. You're just like, it's the shortest route. If anything happens, it happens. Like you stop caring about your life. So someone might look at that and think, well, you're not suicidal because you don't want to hang yourself, but you are suicidal in the sense that you are not taking care of yourself. You don't care about your life anymore. Like you just think, if it happens, it happens. Like life will move on. The way we were saying, like at that point, it feels like everything of yours, your world has come to a stop, but the world is still. Then once you realize that, I think that's one of the places where suicidal thoughts can start coming in, and you start thinking, even if I'm not here, like people will just be fine. I mean, people will wake up tomorrow, the sky will still be blue, the sun will still be yellow, like jobs won't come to a standstill.
At least I'll stop feeling pain.
Exactly.
This reminds me of when I was thinking about killing myself, and you're in such a dark space. You have no feelings. You're just numb. There's a void. And you're just there like feeling valueless completely. It's like even if your parents care about you and they love you and they show, but you're just there like empty. You're just bloody empty. You're just like, I just want to kill myself. And again, I had a whole plan, like literally all thought out that this is going to be so natural. No one will ever know about it. There's ways you can stop your heartbeat, and so it's crazy, right? Because when you start digging into these things, and then you're like, now I'm like, oh shit, you're stupid.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about like the way you said, people get into the whole damn plan, and no one literally like came through to me and told me like, bro, are you okay? Like, what's happening in your life? I know you're going through X, Y, Z. Dude, no one. And like one of the biggest problems was that's the finance problem, because my dad was sick and stuff, but there would just be my uncles or whatever would be like, yeah, okay, how much? So if I'd call him, he'd know that this guy's going to ask for money, or a friend is going to ask for money. But they would not ask, are you okay? Like, what's happening with you? And that is when I realized that these conversations people need to have them, because if you don't, you might have a friend who's going through something. Like the other day, we made an initiative and we're like, let's just go catch up with a boy. Yeah, we're like, we feel like we literally felt it within ourselves that maybe he's not okay. But yeah, man, suicide is fucked up. And then we've witnessed guys who've killed themselves over like relationships and stuff, like having a toxic ex who would even threaten you. Like, now she'll tell you that, oh, if you don't come and see me today, I'll cut myself. I've been through one of those as well. Like, it was a fling. So I'm not lying to you. Like, and now you become super toxic because of them, and you push yourself to the ledge and, jump off or whatever. So coming out loud, men, please, men, please have the fucking conversation, because if you're not going to have the conversation, no one's going to hear you out. Even for yourself what's bothering you. Somewhat when I go for therapy, what my therapist is telling me, I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I know all of this. Why are you telling me, right? So we already know what the root causes are.
Yeah.
Yes, childhood trauma, relationships, parents, crazy friends, like there's so much involved.
Yeah.
And then again, the lack of validation. Men are dominant, right? They always want to feel like, we're the Simba, we're on the top of the chain. Sometimes it's all right, man, if you're not on the top, man. It's just take it easy. Life comes as it goes. And then use the approach. Everything happens for the better. Yeah. What if that chick killed you? You never know. Again, the way you said, some guy's ugali was eaten and the guy was killed. So Also, men should speak to the women and ask them what they're going through. Because recently on Twitter and stuff, I've been seeing where the woman would kill the man or the man would kill the woman within the relationship. How far does it have to go to lead to that point? What led to that point? stepping out of a toxic relationship is fine. Don't feel like you're going to be lonely, or maybe he's your sponsor or she's your sponsor. Dude, run. Like, some of these things that we see, it's just that we don't talk about it. We'll share it on TikTok or, to our friends, like, oh shit, look, this was the headline. But what are we doing about it? Are we really talking about all these things? Like, it's Suicide Prevention Month, right? It's big, and then it's not easy for him to speak about it. Neither it is for me. But if we don't talk about it, no one is going to get inspired and be like, oh shit, I'm going through something. Let me go today and pick up my phone and be like, bro, look, don't say anything. Just listen. Just listen to me. I have everything that I'll say. Just listen to me, and I'll be like, I'm going to pour everything out, and I'll cut the phone. If you feel like giving me advice later, do. But for today, I need you to just lend me a ear.
I think for suicide, it's so strong. I'd even advocate for doing a physical. Yeah, if anybody calls you and they're feeling that way, listen. But after it, you need to see them. You need to give them that physical connection. They need to see you as they talk to you, as they open up more. But even for the people who are going through it, try and find time to, because sometimes time is not, they don't have the time and you want to see people. But seeing people, talking to who you are opening up to, and just watching them listen and just share a bit more, that helps. That helps a lot. I mean, it helps with you, and you just had to, that was a video call.
No, I was face to face.
Face to face. See, just having that helps. I'm hoping.
The affection really helps. Yeah, I agree. The affection really helps, because you feel that maybe their positive aura kind of rubs off on you.
Yeah, no, I think at that point, it's like, okay, the sun will shine, but this is one person that is going to miss me.
Yeah.
That is going to be affected by me killing myself.
Yes.
And then it snaps you out of it. It's like, holy fuck, my entire family is going to...
Yes, it reminds you. Or
it reminds
the
you.
person helps remind you of, okay, this one will miss you. And when you're feeling that kind of darkness, you don't play it. You're like, they won't miss me that much. I mean, it's just 1 year, they mourn, and then they continue on with life. But this other person really brings it out to you. They will hurt. They will be in pain, and you feel that. You actually get to see someone else feel it, and it goes straight to you. We do need that connection, and especially when you're feeling that, you feel, as people who've been there sometimes, you feel unloved. You feel like you're not loved, you don't matter, you're just there. So existing or not, you're okay. But having someone who looks at you and tells you matter face to face really does do good for you. Yeah.
You were going through like self-harm. Did you ever have like suicidal thoughts?
During that breakup, I had the indirect one where I wouldn't hang myself, but if I was walking on a road and somebody pushed me, I wouldn't struggle to stay on this side. Just, you pushed me, okay, fall onto traffic. So I didn't feel strong enough to do it, but I did feel like I didn't want to die. And I kept thinking about it over and over. The only way I wanted to die is through a traffic, run over, because I hoped that would end it, all of it. I did share that a bit with some friends and family, and they did help. Recently also felt that way, very, very strong. And also just getting to share it with friends and be like, I am feeling so dark right now. I don't want to exist. I don't want to be here because of different pressure, different things going on, different situations everywhere. But that feeling is still there, and talking it out helps. It doesn't end in one day. I don't think for you guys, the darkness doesn't clear away in one day, but progressively it starts to get a bit better. Me, I was my sight, my vision, I kept seeing negative in every interaction. I don't see anything positive. I noticed after that talk, I started seeing a bit of positive. Something would happen and be like, okay, so I see the negative clearly because that's the biggest thing I'm seeing in everywhere. But maybe there's this other side as well. And I started focusing on the positive. Yeah. I wanted to know for you guys, you also went through it. What helped get you out of that?
I think mine came from, that time YouTube was quite evolving and watching videos and stuff. Then, I opened up. You
got a call.
Yeah, that was a call, but then I started opening up about it. but yeah, there was one phone call that changed my life, where I work right now. And now I told them, like, after like ages, I told them that, hey, this, you offered me a lifeline. And then I'm telling you, thank people, appreciate them. Just tell them I appreciate you. Thank you for being in my life. I'm grateful. We tell each other that every now and then, and somewhat I feel that sense of like, I bring value to this earth, right? Some people just want to be like, just show them affection, the emotion that, be like, bro, I love you, man. I love you. Whatever it is, you mean something to me. Exactly. And it's helped. And I'm trying my best to tell all my friends that thank you and I appreciate you every now and then. Whoever's helped me through, even with us, with the podcast, everything, giving us guests, connecting us, anything. I'll just be like, boss, I appreciate you for doing what you are. Keep being a great person. I'm telling you, those 2 lines can change your life. Tomorrow morning, I can message you and be like, bro, I'm so happy to meet you guys. Thank you for making the effort, for coming through, and bless it. Let's keep doing this and moving forward. You'll feel that higher sense of yourself, and you'll be like, okay, yeah, nice. But let's try and empower the men around us and women too, right? We don't want to cut them out completely from the picture, but just ask.
Men need it more. Society has brought us up in a place where this needs to be hard because this is not common.
It's not common,
Men say that they need someone to talk to. I mean, you're a man.
But do you know what's funny? One thing I've realized in the few years that I've been exercising is a lot of men use the gym as therapy sessions.
Yeah.
So you'll find that they'll go for a 2-hour workout, but like 40 minutes, they were just ranting about their trashy relationships with whoever.
Wait, what gym is this? Actually talking. I thought you meant like...
No, there's the working out, which really helps. But one thing that I've also seen frequent enough for me to pick as a pattern is some people, for a lot of gyms, especially what I call the hood gyms, the ones that have been there for 30 years, it's the same people over the last 8-9 years. They know each other. So a lot of them go to those gyms and they just vent. Like they just start after... You'll hear one of them saying, oh, it's your turn. You're supposed to get here. Then they just start talking and like... One of them starts asking, hey, Kwani, you didn't eat supper? Like, no, it's just we had this fight with Then it starts. Okay. Then for the next 10-15 minutes, he's just venting. Then he'll be like, well, that problem is at home. You've rested enough. But it offers them that avenue for those who really don't have. Yes. And a lot of them also do that in bars. Like they'll just go, and it has happened frequent enough for us to see it even in movies. Like, I don't know if you've watched Breaking Bad, the time when the plane crashes, right before it crashes, right before that chick dies. These 2 guys meet at the pub, and they don't know each other, but that happens in real life. Then he starts talking about his issue with his daughter, then this other one starts talking about his issues with his nephew, but it was Jesse Pinkman. But a lot of guys just do that, but they just... I usually think of it as a really sad state of affairs, because if it takes you to open up to a stranger in a bar, which the setting, it will breed alcoholism, because now you'll keep on going back to the club for you to have these conversations with strangers, then it really means within your circle, you really don't have anyone to speak to.
I think maybe my mindset is a bit different on that. It's just that sometimes men they fear being judged by their friends. That's why they prefer talking to a stranger. They let it out there and it's done.
No, stranger is okay, but a stranger in a bar with alcohol, especially when these are like your first times, like me and you, we don't think of alcohol as something helpful, right? Or something that we want to do. But imagine going through a situation where you're just, again, rock bottom, and your first form of ease and peace is speaking to a stranger at a club and you're drinking. Now all of a sudden your brain has connected peace to doing that same activity, and then you do it over and over, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're an alcoholic.
Me and Pascal have different view on you guys. Wait, okay, for me it was, I remember I told you, this is how I was making friends back in the day. So I'd go on Thursday night, Friday and Saturdays I'd be at the bar, but I'd hold one beer the whole night. So I'd stand by the bar, and mine was just more of like making friends and just connecting and doing that. And sometimes it's such a beautiful outlet. It's not beauty. Okay, it's harmful, but not beautiful. I mean, both, right?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd have the conversation, and somewhat it will probably, they'll ask me, who are you here with? Do you have a girlfriend or something? And if it's like, no, I don't have a girlfriend, then now why don't I have a girlfriend comes out, and now we've had a whole conversation. But I'm probably never going to see the guy again. He's not going to judge me. And remember, back in the day, mindsets were very, very different. If I tell my boys that I'm feeling like I want to cry, they'd be like, stop being a little bitch. Get up, get up. So like, grow some guns, man. And, like, beat that girl if you have to. Like, that kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So, whatever helps someone. As long as they're aware and mindful that what they're doing is not self-harm, or it's a healthy outlet for them. If it works for them, like if the gym works for you, well and good. Running, the gym made me a fuckboy. But
the gym made you a fuckboy. Damn, that sucks. Like I need this cheat code in my life. Like I've been in like, I'm gonna be a fuckboy, but it always just goes to like talking, and then how do you progress? But I want to go back to the question of like progressing from suicide to upwards. Like, so the gym was really, really beneficial. I remember like my mind used to be so yap. But then the moment you start working out, and initially, it's still yapping, but then when you pick something heavy, all of a sudden your focus is just on trying to lift, and your mind just goes silent. And then when you're done with the session, man, like I remember I would remember it like this: the Rajveer from 2021, where has that guy gone? And after I would hit the gym, there would be those bouts of like such excitement. It's like, fuck yeah, I found the Rajveer from 2021, And then so like the gym started helping me climb out of that. And then from there, now when you look good, you feel good, people are telling you, damn, man, your body's looking nice. I remember I would do it, and I'm gonna out loud say this, like I would thirst trap, bro. Like I'm like, shit, I look so good, and I'm just gonna wear a shirt and unbutton it till there and just sit and take a picture. And now you're getting that online validation. Now it's just forms of just bringing that value back to yourself, I would say. They're unhealthy, some of them, but some of them healthy. And then making new good friends so that you can just let that stuff out. Oh wait, and finding a purpose. Sorry, I really need to mention this. It's really important. And then finding purpose. Because I know one of the questions I used to ask myself a lot was, adventure sing, were you doing it for the fame, or were you doing it to help people? And then we started having more and more conversations on how can we help more men. And then I'm like, I've gone through this traumatic experience, so horrible, and I feel like more men need to like get their shit together. And also supporting my family, that memory came back that I really need to support my family. I want to see my family in a place where, like, my parents, they've never financially been before, and that just became my sole purpose. So the moment, and like, you still have the sadness in your past, but you need to start practicing yourself out of it. So then consciously. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to like dive deep into work. I'm going to dive deep into like this podcast.
Yeah.
And man, you don't even realize it. You're just out of the darkness.
Yeah.
I like the purpose. Men need purpose. And we don't just move about because that will make us feeling worthless, without value, without intention or structure. But we do need a purpose, a way to say, this is what I'm committing to. So I'm putting my time and money, my energy, and that would help. I think in relationships, this is something you keep saying and you live by, that as a man, you're a provider. That's something you stick to. So when you're in a relationship,
Do you stick to it? You should. The 3 people telling you.
I'm nodding. I'm like, okay. No, not as strictly, clearly as you. But in a relationship, you are the provider, and that's your purpose. There's a dependent on you. The same with now when you become a father and you have an entire family. But as a young man without a spouse, with a ring, and without children, you basically are just there trying to find your own purpose. So when you're in a relationship and you find that purpose to be a provider, and then you lose it, we do lose that sense of what's our biggest purpose we're doing right now in life. So that's a journey to find it again. It's a whole journey just trying to get that.
And also knowing, putting smart goals, like 5 years down the line, what do you want to do? 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
And the moment you have a vision, then you start putting in work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a headless chicken running around up and down.
Yes.
So now that both of you know, for example, and even both of us know that our goal is to make an impact on men's mental health or just mental health overall.
Yeah.
You're going to sit and you're going to probably even write notes. You're going to have a vision board. You're going to work towards it.
Yeah.
Same thing with the jobs that we have and whatever we do. We know what we want to do in the short term. Actually, it should be short term, medium term, and long term. Right?
And very clear. And I think something very important, you should have emotion. It's not just something we're doing, like what you're asking, are you doing it just for the fame? Are you doing it to actually help people? Is it actually driven by a very strong emotion inside of you? I think that also comes out important.
Yeah.
If you wake up with a thought and you sleep with that same thought, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah. In addition to what you had earlier said, I know for a lot of men, it might not be majority, but I know it's good enough number that they don't have that kind of relationship. The interesting thing about men, you can really care about your friend, but you never tell them you love them. You never tell them you care about them. It's like implicit. It's just something that it's an implicit understanding, but you guys don't talk about that. So one thing that I've seen help some guys who are in that kind of friendships, who this friend really cares about this other friend, but that's not how they interact. They don't verbally affirm each other. They don't, one thing that might help is if again, it goes back to how you understand your friend. So for example, I know where his strengths are, and whenever he's feeling maybe he doesn't have a purpose, he's worthless and all that, that's where the suicidal thoughts start creeping in. I can just call him for him to help me with something that he's really good at. And it might show him, I'm actually helpful. Like I'm still in a position where I can help someone. Like I still have value. Yeah. I don't have to, or maybe he doesn't appreciate me just calling him and telling him, you know what, Pascal, I really love you. And you really mean a lot. Maybe I'll hang up and he'll be like, then what? But if I call him for him to help me with something that I know he's really good at, he might leave there and he's like, it's like a renewed sense of worth. He's like, I did something constructive today.
You're building back the self-esteem.
Yes, I helped someone. I was of value to someone. So if which I know, there's a former colleague of mine who said he cannot even consider therapy. Like whenever he goes through a tough time, he doesn't talk, he doesn't open up to anyone. He doesn't consider therapy. He just thinks about it and he finds solutions and he moves on. So I know there are those men who don't work on a verbal basis. So actions resonate more with them. So if your relationship has that kind of dynamic, you can consider that as an approach. Yeah.
That's amazing because you're bringing more light to their stronger points.
Yes.
And shedding off their weaknesses indirectly.
Yes. Yeah. And not to say that therapy isn't a viable option for a lot of people, but personally, I'm a huge believer of, even as you're considering seeking therapy services, at least that circle, you need to have that foundation. Yeah, and it even coincides with one of Games for Mental Health. We're actually having a webinar this month, I think on 27th, 26th, 27th, the last Thursday of the month.
September.
Do you do it every last Thursday of the month?
Every other. We want to do every other. So for this month, we are focusing on suicide and the role of community and that support around you in the efforts to combat this monster. One of the main reasons why we are holding that webinar is to show people that even as we are advocating as an NGO, we do advocate for people to seek therapy, to seek that professional help, but at the same time, the support that you have around you is equally important. Don't just think you're going to go through this life alone with a therapist. Just, I don't need anyone else. I just need, do I have money for therapy? Fine. I can do this life by myself. That you can't do that. So you need to have that support around you.
Pick up the right tools and practice them. And not all the tools will work for you.
Yeah.
So you find what works for you. You will be given probably 5-6 ways of something, let's say anger management, for example, or trigger problems. Mm-hmm. He'll give you probably one tool this time, another tool next time. Of course, he needs to make his money or she needs to make the money, but you have to find what works for you and practice it. Mm. And if you're practicing it, don't stop. Because the moment you stop, you go back to that pit hole. Mm. And it's very hard to come out of it.
True.
And also connect with your therapist. If you don't connect with your therapist, please do not continue with the therapy.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that I strongly feel. It shouldn't be in terms of like, oh, she's hot kind of therapy. Just connect with your therapist in a way that he understands you. And you want someone who listens. I'm not lying to you. It's very important. Yeah. If it's a 1-hour session and if he listens to you for 40 minutes and gives you tools for 20 minutes, that's a good therapist. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe. But that is my view, because every time I've gone for therapy, when he listens and he gives me those points in the last 20 minutes, same thing with me and my wife. We don't have problems necessarily, but we just go to marriage counseling for fun. Yeah. And we're like, let's just go for fun and pick up the tools. So it's very important. Just go and pick up the tools, and trust me, that third person telling you something, you will put in the work. You'll be like, okay, if you probably told me and you're my buddy that, oh, you have anger issues, you're stupid. I'm literally flipped inside
you are
myself.
Too sensitive.
Yeah, you're too And now when this guy will tell you, you're going to take it with a pinch of salt. But okay, you know what? Let me go and work on myself and practice what he's told me. So don't be dependent on it. That's it. Because then you'll never explore yourself more. Because every single time you'll be like,
it's like alcohol all over again.
It becomes some form of addiction. I usually tell him it's important the systems that you have around you is more important than the drive you have, because the times you don't have that drive, you fall to that system. And one very interesting analogy I came across on the internet was if the goal was the one that was the main determinant in terms of whether someone achieves something or not, then everyone who starts a 100-meter dash would be number one. But everyone has the same goal, to be the fastest one to the finish line. But what determines whether you'll be the first one there is the systems you have. How have you been training? What diet do you have? Like, that system is what's going to... So it's not... When you're on the track, it's not about the goal. You all have the same goal, but what systems do you have? So when it even comes to mental health, you might have that goal to be better, to be a better person, to be better mentally. But if the systems that you're falling back to, most of your friends are taking unhealthy ways of dealing with situations, you still keep the same toxic people around you. If that's the system you have around you, then your goal plays a very small part in you'll keep on falling back to that system. Keep on going back to Instagram. You see people outside, you're like, 2 drinks won't hurt. Then you just continue from there. So yeah, that's just one clarification.
I want to dive deeper into that because that is super important. Systems. Did you listen to this from Tony Robbins?
No.
Not Tony Robbins, because Tony Robbins spoke about systems. So I'm going to try and state this in like bullet points.
Yeah.
The people that you surround yourself with, your daily habits.
Yes.
What are your habits before you go to bed? And what are your habits when you wake up? Before you go to bed, that is going to determine your next day.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out your habits. So a couple of habits to adopt would be stuff like journaling, being grateful, writing down a gratitude list, cutting off your screen time about an hour or two before bed, eating a good meal, like 2 hours before bed or 3 hours before bed. Then the next morning, wake up again, meditation, gratitude, having a good breakfast. Diet is important in your system.
Sleeping pattern.
Sleep. You need to get enough sleep, at least 8 hours of sleep. There's this one really good exercise, and that's why I mentioned Tony Robbins. So one of the exercises he gives is in the morning, you visualize your goals again. Visualize past goals that you've achieved, be grateful for them. Then there is a type of breath work he gives. You breathe in as full as possible, breathe out as full as possible. Breathing is like such an important skill to learn. So you do that every single day. Then, over the course of the day, being very mindful of, what you're doing, focusing on your purpose, setting, for my time when I was building my systems, I set timetables. Like, okay, from this time to this time, I have to do this. So because one of the things is, people say that thing of, it's just 2 drinks, is because you don't have something to replace your bad habits with, which essentially your systems, you're replacing all bad habits.
So again, coming down to the gym, the routine, the moment you have discipline and you're committed to it, it automatically builds your focus. And overall, you all of us are work in progress. None of us are perfect.
No, but again, discipline still comes down to your system. If your system is not built to support discipline.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So after building all that, overall, you're just pushing your characteristics to a better version.
Yeah.
For sure. Because even me with the gym, there was what you said, Monday to Friday, no matter what, by 9 p.m. I was asleep because I have to wake up at 4:30 to go to the gym by 5. Mm-hmm. But if I screw up one night, it's going to mess me up. I screwed up.
Something important you've said, and I've lived by those words. You don't rise to your goal, you fall to your systems. Yeah, so if whatever you're chasing, you will not rise, you'll not develop new things that'll get you to that goal. But the systems that you put in place, that's what you'll fall back on, and that's what can get you to your goal.
Is there any tips you guys have seen in your life when you guys were setting systems in place for yourselves?
Systems are the hardest for me. That's where I am right now. Actually, I'm trying to set those systems, and one, I got to know people are important. The things you've mentioned, I'm gonna come back to this video just to write them.
To write them down?
Yes.
Solid.
I don't need to consciously see how I'm doing on all those things. But people is what I want to point out. As young men, we need to talk to our friends. We've already determined that. But we also need older men who we can talk to. People who have already done it. People who've already gone through this and they came out on the other side okay. So we need to hear their stories as well. And what we are both doing with our podcast is sharing these kind of stories. So it needs to come out from them. I really do recommend a lot of guys, especially in career and in where they're employed or working or trying to chase a career, get a mentor. Someone who has done it career-wise, you can talk to and just get to share ideas. And for a long time, what I struggled with is what value do I give to my mentor? And then I realized seeing the world from my point of view is a value, because the reason I'm going to him is to see the world from his point of view, through his experienced eyes. So as much as I need him, he wants to see the world from my young eyes, because he's at a point where he's leading such young people. So he needs to hear from me just as much as I need to hear from him. So young people, get a mentor. That's for systems. Get friend you can definitely talk to. Others, go ahead to get therapists. It's also something good I'd recommend. Yeah. So the people part, have that done well. Yeah.
For me, I'd give 2 tips. One, it's I'll just kind of echo what people have said, but please look at the people who are around you, because they're the people who I usually make jokes and say, when you want to date a woman, look at the council of elders around her. Those are the ones who are making the decisions, because now they're the ones who speak to her when she's at her lowest. They're the ones who speak to her ear, which is the same thing as all of us. When you are at your lowest, you need the right voices in your ear. So really look at the people you keep around you. So that's one. Another lesson that I picked up from Jordan Peterson's one of his lectures was, a lot of times in life you can be in a position where you don't know what the right thing is, but you know what the wrong thing is. So you're somewhere, you're confused, you're in that position where everything is blank, you don't know where to move. It's like you have a million directions and you don't know where to go. So you might, at that point, you might not know what the right turn to take is, but you know this is wrong. I might not know what the right thing is, but this is wrong. Avoid that. So as you're still figuring out what the right way is, avoid the wrong one. Because especially at that point, I was just looking back and I was telling him the same thing. If I picked up alcohol when I went through my first breakup, I would have been a totally different person. Because now that's how you build habits. When you are at your lowest, then, you approach it with that much emotional intensity. So you really overdo it. And you overdo it that much, then it just becomes a part of you, which leads me to like a 2.1, which is, I think of systems like there's this divorce lawyer I was listening to, I've forgotten his name, but I made that connection. He was talking about prenups. So I think of systems like prenups. He said, you will have the government, if you don't have a prenup, the government will decide how you're going to split this. So the same thing with systems. You do have it. So it's for you to determine what kind of system you are having in your life. If you're not intentional with the kind of system you're building, your habits, your subconscious habits and your environment will build a system for you. Whether you want to or not, there'll always be a system. So it's for you to determine what kind of system you want to implement in your life. That's what I would.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on to the Men's Forum.
Thank you for having us.
Together doing amazing stuff. These conversations need to go out more. Yeah. Men needing help, men needing therapy. Yeah.
We're going to do this again for sure. I believe.
Next time, hopefully, we won't have our microphone issue. But thanks for bearing with us, man. Well, the good thing is you guys run a podcast. You know the shit that we go through. With that, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of the Men's Forum.
If you have any questions regarding today's episode, feel free to comment below.
And if there's other topics that you want us to discuss in future episodes, then also let us know in the comments, and we will see you guys next week.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Peace.